Short Vort and Chassidus on the Parsha. So let's take a look at an interesting incident in this week's Parsha where Moshe Rabbeinu and Bnei Yisrael are trying to pass through the land of Edom, and the Edomites do not seem to let us want to go through. So we say to them, please let us pass through your land, and we will not pass through any field or vineyard, and we will not drink the well water. We will travel by the king's road. We will not turn aside to the right or to the left until we have passed through your territory. Edom responded, you shall not pass through me, lest I go out against you with the sword. Bnei Yisrael said, we will go up by the highway, and if we or our cattle drink your water, we will pay for it. It is just nothing. We only want to pass through on foot. Then Edom responded, do not pass through. Edom came to confront Bnei Yisrael with a massive number of people and a strong hand. Edom refused to allow Israel to pass through its territory, and Israel turned aside from him. So the Morav Shamash asked some very interesting questions over here. His questions seem to be that Moshe really bedafka wants to cross through the land of Edom. Is there something intrinsic about crossing the land of Edom more than any other place that he could have crossed into Eretz Yisrael? Because we don't find that Hashem told Moshe to cross specifically in Edom. And Moshe Rabbeinu actually humbles himself a lot when he's speaking to the king of Edom. He refers to him as his brother, and we know that the Edomites are not really the best people in the world. And a king like Moshe, of course, he can ask for a favor. But to humble himself so much and to entreat so much the king of Edom, somebody who's a Russia, doesn't seem quite proper for him to do. So is there something special about passing through the land of Edom that Moshe Rabbeinu would be so insistent on it, despite Hashem seemingly not having commanded him to go through it? So the Morav Shamash pivots for a second, and he wants to discuss our four exiles. We know that the Jewish people were exiled 4 times: Egypt, Babylon, Greece, and Edom. Edom, which is the exile that we are currently in, is seemingly the largest outlier of them all, meaning that it's still going on, and it's been going on for close to like 2,000 years, something like that. So why is this exile worse and longer than all the other exiles? So the Morav Shamash says that if we take a look at every single one of the exiles, so let's start with the first one, the Egyptian exile. Before we were exiled, during the Egyptian exile, we came to Egypt, meaning that Abraham and Sarah, our forefathers, before we were exiled to Egypt, they one time had made a journey to Egypt, and while they were in Egypt, they prayed. He said that this exile that their descendants would one day have not be so bad, and it end quickly and speedily. Because when our forefathers, first of all, they're prophets, they have knowledge of the future, and they know about stuff that's going to happen to us, and they're smart. They don't just say, well, that stinks for them, right? No, they realize that we are part of them. We are a continuation of their legacy, and so when they see that pain is going to happen to us in the future, they pray for it in advance. So we see Abram and Sarah were in Egypt, and in Egypt they had prayed that when we got there, it wouldn't be so bad. So the Egyptian exile, as we know, it ended, right? The Babylonian exile. Well, Abraham, Sarah, and Yaakov, for example, all had been to the area of Babylonia before. And obviously the Babylonian exile happened way after those righteous people had lived. So, and we know that Yaakov and Abraham and Sarah, they were all aware that this exile would one day happen because they were prophets. So while they were in Babylon, of course they davened that the future exile that their descendants would have would end and come to an end one day. The Greek exile. The Greek exile actually happened while we were in the land of Israel. Exile doesn't have to mean you're kicked out of your land. It just means like you're out of control, like you don't have power, you're not running things so much. So the Greek exile happened in the land of Israel, so that one goes without any explanation, right? Meaning that many of our great ancestors, like Abraham and Sarah and Rivka and Leah, and they had all been in the land of Israel, so of course they had davened that the Israelite exile that would happen in the time of Greece wouldn't be so bad. But what about the land of Edom? Do we find that any of our ancestors spent any time in the land of Edom? So Morav Shamash says no, which is why the Edomite exile is so much longer than all the other exiles, because we didn't have any of our great avos, our ancestors, go there before that exile and pray in that land that the exile that would take place because of that land and in that land ends soon. So now we can pivot back to our story over here. Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, being a prophet and in his infinite wisdom, realizes, he senses, he said, wait a minute, once he got to the border of Edom, he realized that, wait a minute, none of the great ancestors of the Jewish people have ever been in this land to have prayed that the exile that will one day happen in this land end quickly. Oh, I got to get into this land. Meaning, Moshe Rabbeinu knows he's not getting into the land of Israel. But he says, okay, but you know what? I have to cross into the land of Edom, and I can just give them a cover story, right, that I'm crossing through their land to get into the land of Israel, even though he knows maybe he's not going to get in the land of Israel, but it's worth it just to cross into the land of Edom alone so that Moshe Rabbeinu can make up, because none of the others had ever davened for the Jewish people in their future exile, the exile of the Edomite exile in the land of Edom. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into the land of Edom, and immediately I'm going to start davening Hashem when the Jewish people are exiled because of these Edomites and they're exiled to the Edomite lands. Please make their exile end soon. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. But we can at least understand what Moshe Rabbeinu's intentions were and why he was so pushy to get into the Edomite land. Because Hashem had other plans. So Edom ended up refusing. But we see how much Moshe Rabbeinu was thinking about us, how klal-minded he was. So independent of the result of the story, we should all try to emulate Moshe. And we should think about how what we can do now will affect the people that come after us. And think about Klal Yisrael as a continuation of us and feel the suffering of the future generations. All right, Yasher Koach, and have a great Shabbos.